Welcome back to Studio Chatter. Did you know that your mouth has a big part to play in your overall health? And I'm not talking about what you put into it. Let's welcome Mindy Lunceford from Gunnerson Dental and TMJ and Sleep Therapy of Utah to the table.
Welcome, Mindy.
Thank you.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, no pun intended, right?
Before we jump into where you are, tell us just a little bit about you. Who's Mindy?
Well, I am a dental hygienist that works for Dr. Gunnerson. I've been working for him since 1997, off and on part-time.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot.
And yeah, a long time. And I have 5 children. I live in Mapleton, and I have recently come into the field of myofunctional therapy, and it's an exciting field that's out there to help improve our health.
Okay, say that again. Myofunctional therapy.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Which
the
entails
easiest way to say
what?
it. So yeah, myofunctional actually stands for muscle function.
Okay.
And the full name of it is really orofacial myofunctional therapy, but that is really a mouthful.
The face muscles.
So yes,
Okay.
it entails the muscles in our face and in our throat and in our tongue, and it also focuses on airway.
So that can help us in what ways?
So myofunctional therapy helps with our overall health because the tongue is really important in the development of our mouth. So when we can intercept dysfunctional habits that are happening at an early age, we can help children, but we can also help adults who have maybe been living with these dysfunctional habits that they've developed over the course of time.
So what would be
improve
some
their
of these
health.
dysfunctional habits?
So some dysfunctional habits would be like thumb sucking, digit sucking, nail biting, lip chewing.
I'm like,
Grinding.
okay,
Grinding teeth. Like
Yes.
if you're sleeping and grinding your teeth. Would that be
Definitely
one? Okay.
grinding your teeth is a dysfunctional habit as well. And then just improper tongue placement, tongue thrusting when you swallow, so improper tongue movements. And then also weak facial muscles that sometimes happens from just not using your mouth and your face correctly, but it can also be medically related weakness that happens in the face.
I want to ask, how
Wow.
do you not use your mouth and face muscles correctly?
it's when you're talking back to your mom. That's
That's
when you're
a
not,
good one.
You're not using your mouth correctly.
Like, this is fascinating.
Right. Well, a lot of times people don't know that what they're doing is dysfunctional.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you haven't been using your muscles correctly to begin with, for example, if you're not speaking correctly, we hear a lot of children making a lot of speech errors and we just think, oh, they're going to grow out of it. But then sometimes we need to refer them to a speech pathologist.
And they do a good job at the schools to intercept that.
Right.
But now I'm realizing why that's so important and not just a, well, you don't want people to tease you kind of a thing. It's more important than that.
Yeah, it is definitely more important than that. The tongue has a specific spot in the mouth where it should be resting. The tip of the tongue should be up on the roof of the mouth and the blade of your tongue should be suctioned up on the roof of your mouth.
You're kidding.
When you're at rest, your lips should be closed and you should be breathing through your nose, never through your mouth.
So how can we get diagnosed? Like, how can we maybe do a test with you? I mean,
we need to see you one-on-one. We're like,
Oh, crap, I've done that.
But it is interesting because, I mean, probably with my own children, one swallows kind of interestingly, and one says his L's kind of interesting, and you try and correct that as best you can. I mean, and then my spouse, like the sleeping thing, you know, the breathing patterns. I mean, I'm not perfect, but you do recognize all of these things for sure.
Right.
So how do you recognize these patterns and diagnose them properly?
Are you asking me specifically, or
Maybe no. How do we come into the office? How do we check these things?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you just schedule an appointment for a consultation. I mean, that's the easiest way to really be seen. But one of the things, or many of the things that you want to be looking for in yourself, your spouse, or your children, is if they are snoring, if they require liquids when they're chewing because they may not have correct chewing patterns, that they're not digesting their food correctly, which can affect nutrition. Back to the snoring, if they're snoring, it could lead to sleep apnea, some stretching of the soft tissues because of weakening in the breathing muscles. Other things would be if they have misaligned teeth, where their teeth aren't lining up correctly and you're thinking of taking them to the orthodontist. It could be likely is because their tongue isn't sitting in the right position, and when they swallow, it's thrusting forward or to the side and pushing teeth out. Because I mean, we swallow hundreds of times a day.
So that brings up a point. Does this include, like, if someone has a hard time swallowing?
Yes.
Because my husband has a hard time swallowing, and he gets, when he eats, and it's...
Yes. That the proper way to be able to swallow, again, begins with your tongue touching the roof of your mouth, just behind your front teeth on the fleshy area back there. And then it should form a wave as it pushes back to your throat. And if your tongue is pushing forward to touch your teeth when you're swallowing, then you're not swallowing correctly. The other thing that's important is having enough lift with the sides of your tongue to be able to help gather that food into what's called a bolus, a specific grouping, rather than having it scattered all over the tongue. And to be able to collect it in that bolus, it needs to be able to have the correct amount of strength and lift in all of the areas. And that lifting the tongue, the tip of the tongue to the right spot, and then that wave motion to push it down will
all the
help
things
the
we
bolus
didn't
go
think of when we were eating
Right.
and sleeping and all the things.
so that you don't choke on your food.
Then how do you, so you describe this to someone, and then do you send someone home with like physical therapy, for example, with your face,
Exactly.
face and throat and
Yeah.
tongue?
Simple exercises that we send people home with. We have them come back, assess how well they've developed the muscle strength with those particular exercises, and then perform new exercises to have them do, or present new exercises to have them do that they can perform. And then we work on just building on those skills and strengthening the areas where we've noticed that there's weakness.
Okay.
So when I called Stacy this weekend, I'm like, can you come do something with me? She's like, no, I've got some tongue exercises I need to do. I need to strengthen my tongue.
Yeah, there's something, apparently.
The exercises are simple
That's
and they don't take a lot of time.
Okay, good.
Fascinating.
Okay, so they're easy.
So what's the difference then between malocclusion and maybe TMJ? Because malocclusion is just what? Teeth
So
all out,
Malocclusion basically means your teeth are misaligned.
misaligned, okay?
Yeah. So malocclusion would be addressed typically by an orthodontist.
But your
TMJ
jaw.
is
okay.
specifically dealing with the joint right up in here. So if you have any clicking, popping, grinding type of issues going on, locking, then you have a TMJ issue.
What do they do for the TMJ?
Dr. Gunnerson treats TMJ by doing a series of exercises. He has a cold laser therapy, a cold laser that provides therapy to help with inflammation, and appliance therapy to help decompress the jaw.
And tell us more about the sleep apnea, and really quick.
All right, so sleep apnea is when you have periods of pausing during your breathing. Oftentimes you'll hear snoring and then you'll hear some stopping of that. And sleep apnea can be a very serious problem that causes all sorts of health risks, high blood pressure and diabetes, and anyway.
So many things.
Lots of different things can be affected when you have sleep apnea. So one of the things that we do to treat sleep apnea, you can have a CPAP, but a lot of people don't tolerate a CPAP, and so we recommend having an oral appliance to help open up the airway. And by doing myofunctional therapy exercises, we can help strengthen that airway, particularly by strengthening the diaphragm and working on diaphragm breathing, and other exercises to help strengthen all the way up through the airway. And the most important way to breathe is through your nose with a closed mouth. It creates more resistance to breathe through your nose, but it's the organ designed specifically for that purpose, because we can't smell through our mouth.
My
And,
Wow.
and we can't taste with our nose. So eating is for the mouth and breathing is for the nose.
Well, thank you.
Mindy,
Very
that
interesting.
flew by, and I feel like I still have so many questions. So we may be just booking an appointment and saying, here's our problems.
Yes.
Okay.
See us through.
Call online, and I'm sure all of our social networks, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks,
thanks so
Mindy.
much.
Thank you.
Coming up next, getting your kids to do their chores and like it. Really?